a congregant comes to his rabbi and he says, "Rabbi, you teach that God is everywhere. If that's so, why do I need to go to synagogue at high holidays? I can pray to God anywhere." To which the rabbi responds, "It's true that God is the same everywhere, but you are not. Indeed, we come to be together as a community because being in this sacred space, we are changed potentially." I share that image of a congregant coming to a rabbi with a question about what the rabbi has taught about God and how congregants are changed by who they are with. Because what I'd like to do in this more intimate setting of second day Rosh Hashanah is reflect on the finitude of my rabbinate. This is my second to last Rosh Hashanah with you. Next year, as I'll be preaching, it'll be the last time that you will hear me as your rabbi of Congregation B'nai Israel. I am quite aware of finitude, that life is limited, all the more having signed my final contract. In some ways, that have sweetened what I do. There is a glow around what I do as a rabbi, knowing that it's limited in how much longer I will be doing it in this privileged role as rabbi. As I sit here on the bima on Fridays with the children of our preschool before us, in recent weeks blowing the shofar for them, I smile to know I'm not a very good shofar blower. And I delight in their joy of participating by calling out the names and engaging with them. And I smile to know of the privilege of being their rabbi. When I get up in this moment, in this very moment, I know that the chance to reflect publicly is what some people pay a therapist to do. I get to reflect before a community, drawing on my deepest, not deepest, but deeper than usual expressions of what's going on in my inner life, as in this moment, sharing that my rabbinate is finite. I've always been aware that it's finite. I have seen older rabbis whose congregations, they are rabbis, they say, who are went, and then there are sent. And I have seen the rabbis who have been sent, who I have loved in some cases, because they felt they were too old, they could get a less expensive younger rabbi, that they could get somebody who would relate to younger people. Already negotiating years ago, I said, the only thing I want in my contract, or the main thing is I want a good severance clause. I know I'm getting older. But fortunately, that was not my case. Fortunately, I have felt appreciated and beloved in my years here at CBI. It's my beginning of my 32nd year. Now, I pause as I look around at people to say what I said the other night, which is if you think back 31 years ago, and there are many here who are founders of the synagogue and past presidents, how young you were 31 years ago. That's the age of your children now. And those children in many cases are the children I bar and bat mitzvah who are now in their mid-40s. And there's no greater joy for me as continuing to, from time to time, hear about how your children and your grandchildren are doing, knowing that by virtue of having been part of bar mitzvahs and weddings and funerals, I've had the privilege to be part of your family life. What I didn't know before I began is the privilege on the inside of being a rabbi. I remember when I was a rabbinical school student in a practical rabbinics class, the rabbi who was teaching this said when you go to bless your congregation, when you place your hands on somebody's shoulders, you should feel 2,000 years of history oozing through your fingers. And I just couldn't help but cringe. It was not something I wanted to be feeling, oozing. But the part that, again, I've grown to understand is the need to be two people in the following way. And they say in Hebrew, lahavdil, to make a distinction. Yesterday, I referred to Paul McCartney in that interview. When Paul McCartney was asked how he deals with being larger than life, he says, I'm two people. He says, I'm that person and I see that person who people are excited to see because they have my music as part of their soundtrack. He said, but I'm watching that other Paul McCartney, the famous Paul McCartney, through the same eyes that I'm speaking to you now in the interview. I am the boy who grew up in Liverpool, and I always bring who I am to who and whatever I do. That's the nature of being a rabbi. And now I take you behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz-like, in terms of the nature of being a rabbi. I feel in this moment affection and love. And that's the privilege of being part of families that are here. And yet when I am in my role as rabbi, I am in some part what is called in fancy rabbinic language a symbolic exemplar. I am a symbol of the Jewish people. It is not Eli, just as Eli, who goes into a room where a family is gathered because a patriarch is dying, for the rabbi to say prayers and to enable a feeling of holy space, to create a sense of closure for a life. That's the privilege in the deepest sense of humility of being the rabbi. In that sense, I watch it and know that you can only do that role if you're fully in the moment of being in that moment, of being a vessel of God's presence, of community presence, and indeed being present with an open heart. At the same time, it's not Eli as Eli. That is not the role of the rabbi in that moment. In that moment, it's not being Eli. It's being a vessel for the community that matters. And so often the privileges that I have as a rabbi, I could not have anticipated. The people who share their secrets with me, those whose joys are shared with me, my opportunity to be with those who have suffered loss and are going through loss. I said to my teacher, Rabbi Abraham Twersky, who's also a psychiatrist, I said to him, how do you protect yourself from the pain that you deal, in his case, with addictions? And he said, if you're doing the job well, you're not protecting yourself fully. If you're doing the job well, your heart is open and you're empathic and you're going to feel the pain. The great challenge of being a rabbi is fatigue, emotional fatigue and physical fatigue. In order to be present for somebody in pain, where you don't have the answers because there are no answers, to be fully present means to be a vessel, it means to be an open heart, and it means to absorb. And so many rabbis find that at a certain point, the fatigue is such that it's time to transition. I wanted to transition with a mindset of being like those boxers that I always said should quit at the top of their game before they get knocked out. That they should be at their strength when they say, I have no more to prove. I know I will miss this. I will miss you. This is not my farewell. This is a preparation for the next year and a half for it to end well for all of us. That's where I'm going with this, in particular on this Rosh Hashanah. How can we as a community of CBI, who built this beautiful space, who come together to worship, continue to feel the strength of CBI without me? My beautiful, wise mother taught me well, and she said, just remember, talking to me as a boy, no one is indispensable. I am not indispensable, nor is any of us in our own lives and what we do, but we are nonetheless important. We are nonetheless beloved, hopefully. But my goal is to say life is finite. And so I chose with difficulty when to end, difficulty on many levels. I interviewed 12 rabbis, some who had retired, some who were in their last contract, who I admired. And of course, I talked with Linda, for whom it's also a decision. I'll be 67 in 2 years. I'm healthy. She's healthy. There's a piece of me that feels there might be one more thing to do creatively. Not sure what it is or where it is. But what I do know is how privileged I am to have been with you and continue to be with you in the next close to 2 years. Because it is now finite for me, it is all the more sweet, a gift to be your rabbi. But CBI is more than me. This congregation this morning is the self-selected. It's the people who gather for ketubah signing before the chuppah, the inner circle that exchange the blessings. As I look around this room, there are founders of this community who close to 38 years ago created Congregation B'nai Israel. There are many past presidents. There are many leaders of the larger community, past presidents, several past presidents of Tarbut this morning. Those who serve the community currently at Heritage Point, at our federation, past principal of Tarbut. This room is marked by leadership, and this community is strong. It is strong because of the vitality of the people in this room, the people who were here yesterday, and the people who will be here tomorrow. I believe in you, but more, I believe in Judaism as being relevant and vibrant, informing meaning in our lives, giving us a sense of belonging across time and looking forward to the future of a greater good in the world. And so, in the next year, before the congregation begins to look for the new rabbi, it is my prayer that you will continue to do what you already do, which is participate in Shabbat Shalom, make friends with others, continue to do what you already do, which is come to synagogue from time to time and feel the privilege of belonging. Continue to do what you already do, which is to come to synagogue events like the gala where we honor 3 remarkable people this year, and to say, that's my synagogue. I am proud to belong to that kind of group of people that gather as Congregation B'nai Israel. A congregation with 180 different Torah readers. A congregation where our young people get up and lead on high holidays for the first time because we invite them to participate. A congregation in which older people are honored as having wisdom worthy to listen to. Rosh Hashanah represents birth. Yom Kippur represents death. That's how the rabbi structured these 10 days. This morning, we read, as a continuation of yesterday's Torah reading, about Yitzchak, that newborn. On Rosh Hashanah, we celebrate as we blow shofar, Hayom Harat Olam, that today the world was called into being. And we do so in our prayers in the plural. We pray in the plural because we're reminded that we're all interconnected, that we need each other and are responsible for each other, both as Jews and as people on this planet. We need to be connected. And so Rosh Hashanah represents birth and Yom Kippur represents death. That's why we fast, no physical intimacy. We dress literally, traditionally, in a shroud, a kittel. It's a near-death experience. So as to say and remind us when we say, Mi yechiyah mi yamut, who will live and who will die, we know that intellectually. And I share with a heavy heart, on a more familial basis, without details in this moment, health challenges that are serious among my family, not my immediate family, but my extended family. A reminder that how much longer we have, how much health we have, we don't control. No matter how much money we have, no matter how fame we have, no much strength we have, no matter how often we go to the gym, we do not control the length of our days, sadly. And so Rosh Hashanah, we celebrate birth. On Yom Kippur, the acknowledgement that it's finite. But the goal is not to make us sad. The goal is for us to rejoice that we are alive. Zachrenu b'chayim, melech hafetz b'chayim. Remember the King of life who longs for life. That's what we say about God in the supplemental prayers for high holidays. L'chaim is what we say as we raise our glass to life. In this, my final, penultimate Rosh Hashanah, it's very sweet for me. It's sweet because of you, because of us. Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, in our own lives, Rabbi and synagogue aside, in our own personal lives, may we see each day as a gift, for our days are limited. No matter how engaged we may be doing with what we're doing, we are wise enough to know it's finite. And because it's finite, it is precious. Yom Kippur is a near-death experience. We keep on living. Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, I anticipate much good living for Linda and me in years to come, but different. And as I look back on these years, I'm sure I will feel a longing and much